If you are not yet a member of the Patreon, link is in the description. Please consider becoming a member, as you will have access to many videos you cannot find here on YouTube.
Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Didi Got a Podcast, and of course, I'm your host, Didi. By the end of this video, you will be legitimately asking yourself if we live in a comic book. Yes, I know that sounds crazy, but you got to watch this video all the way to the end, and you will understand why I say this. By the end of this video, you will be legitimately asking yourself if the people that we've been seeing, if these characters we've been seeing, if they're even human. I know that it sounds crazy, but you have to watch this video all the way through and you will better understand. In fact, once you get to the end of this video, hop in the comment section and ask me if I was right or not. If you have yet to see the video that I've made about Erika Kirk's music video, I would highly suggest that you go and check that out, because this video will make a little bit more sense and won't just sound like random babbling and conspiracy theories. If you have yet to see my Erika Kirk video and the background on her family, or if you haven't seen it on anybody else's channel yet, I would highly recommend that you go and do that probably before you watch this video. If you have not seen my video about Snake Eyes, the 1998 film starring Nicolas Cage, I would highly recommend that you go and watch that out, because it will sort of complete this video. And last but not least, if you haven't seen my more recent video concerning Erika Kirk's father and his YouTube video that he posted almost 10 years ago to this day, I would highly suggest that you go and check that out, because this won't, at some point, you're going to stop saying that it's just a lot of coincidences. All right. So this video that's on the screen is from a YouTube channel called CTL ALT History. This video was sent to me, and I thought that this was extremely interesting. And towards the end of the video, his video is incredible, but towards the end of the video, I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to add additional information that this person did not share, that will add a little bit or make it a little bit harder for people to just say this is just a coincidence. Hit the like button on your way in if you do not mind. Let's get into it.
Okay, this will be a video about Erika Kirk and the incredibly strange, very intriguing mystery surrounding her. And when you hear Erika Kirk, you probably think of the Erika Kirk on the left there, who's everywhere. She was the wife of Charlie Kirk, who was recently assassinated. She's been all over the news for the past couple months, but we're going to be focused this video on this Erika Kirk, who is a completely different person. This Erika Kirk was First Lady of Florida in the 1960s and 70s, and she was married to the Florida governor, whose name was Claude Kirk. And this Claude Kirk was basically just a total animal, just this really larger-than-life type guy who was governor of Florida from 1967 to 1971, and was even mentioned as a vice presidential and even a presidential candidate. And this is just insanely weird. There's no other way to put it, because as you can tell, they have the same name. They both look identical. There's definitely something very strange going on here. I'll kind of get into what I think is going on a little later in the video, but first wanted to tell the story of the 1960s and 70s Erika Kirk, because it's a real interesting story, and she was regarded as this real woman of mystery. So when Claude Kirk was elected governor of Florida in 1966, he was single. He was actually called the most eligible bachelor in Florida at the time. And when he had his inauguration ball in January of 1967, after he took office, he shocked all of Florida when he showed up to the ball with a woman. And this girl was just a total mystery. No one knew who she was. No one had ever seen her with Claude Kirk before. And when he introduced her to people, he just referred to her as Madam X. And there was just all these massive stories about who was this mysterious girl who was with Claude Kirk? Who was this Madam X? Everybody wanted to know who she was and where she came from, and the details of her life slowly started coming out, and the details are really interesting. So it turned out her name was Erika Mattfeld, and she was born in Germany in 1934, and then she moved to Brazil. And before Claude Kirk, she was married to an actor named Carlos Dolabella, and she worked as some sort of model or actress, although she doesn't really have any credits to her name. There's kind of like a mystery about how she ended up in Brazil and what she was doing there. I'll talk a bit about that later in the video.
Well, let me just say, for those of you that haven't followed on or haven't caught on to it as of yet, we have a gentleman, a governor, and I was like, there's no way this is real. I looked it up, and the information I'm going to share further on further proves that these people are real. This is an actual person. His name is Claude Kirk. So C. Kirk, just like Charlie Kirk. He marries this woman named Erika Kirk, and her name is literally spelled the exact same way. But even more interesting enough, this person, Claude Kirk, a lot of people don't know, didn't even have a history in politics. yet he became the governor. Let's continue.
But anyway, she divorced this actor and remained in Rio de Janeiro, and that was where she met Claude Kirk. And that was pretty much all that was revealed about her. She remained this real enigma, just kind of the talk of the state for a while. And then Claude Kirk announced that they were going to get married. If you can see the date on the newspaper there, it says January 8th, 1967, which is only about 3 days after he took office. So basically, he showed up to the inauguration ball with this mysterious woman, caused a big stir and a big commotion, and then announced he was marrying her. And the wedding happened a short while later.
Which isn't surprising at all because guess what? Charlie Kirk and Erika Kirk didn't get married too much longer. Like it didn't take them long at all either. We've all seen the podcast episode where they were talking about their story. And it doesn't make you a bad person if that story felt odd to you, because it felt odd to me. It's also important to note that they say that this person, Erika Kirk, who married Claude Kirk in Florida, it's important to note that they say that she was in Germany and she went to, I believe, Brazil. And no one really knows her backstory and why it is that she went to Brazil. But what I can tell you is that Erika Kirk, or previously Erika, I believe it was Mudfield, or something like that. She's actually Jewish.
It was a really massive deal. President Nixon attended, and Erika Kirk was basically just this sensation in Florida. While Claude Kirk was governor, she was constantly talked about in the press. She really just kind of turned into a big celebrity. And
it's also important to note that when they got married, Erika Kirk was 33 years old when the governor married her. He was 41 years old. Why is that important? Because that is very similar, once again, to Charlie Kirk's story. Because C. Kirk, Claude Kirk, Charlie Kirk, C. Kirk, when he married Erika Kirk, or Erika Frontvie at the time, she was 32 years old, almost 33. And
she always kept sort of a low profile. And so there was a lot of mystery surrounding her and their relationship. There was all these articles about how she'd gone from working as a waitress in Germany to becoming the first lady of Florida. This article here kind of sums up what a lot of these articles that talked about her were like. It says, Erika Kirk radiates. Her emerald green eyes actually glow. When she smiles, which is almost always, they shimmer. And Claude Kirk himself was just a real celebrity too. He's described as just this larger-than-life type guy. He was totally flamboyant, very controversial, very, very outspoken. Here he is holding up a skinned chicken at a press conference, and he was always doing like really outlandish publicity stunt things like this. There was this huge feature on him in the New York Times after he was elected, and it described him as, quote, it says, as a person, Claude Kirk is a dizzying experience. As a governor, he is certainly the most bizarre happening in Florida's political history. Then it also describes him. It says he played governor the way Errol Flynn used to play Captain Blood. Charming, daring, somewhat arrogant, seldom going by the rules. This article that recapped his first year on the job described how he scuba dived to the bottom of the ocean and planted the Florida flag there. And then he also participated with police in a raid on a motorcycle gang's hangout. And even at one point, he put on a football uniform complete with pads for the University of Florida, and he sat on the bench with the team one Saturday when they were playing a game against Vanderbilt. So he was always doing just all these really outlandish things to garner all this publicity. He was described as just a totally brash, really flamboyant guy, and his story is actually kind of suspicious. He was this really, really rich guy. He was actually a lawyer, and then he made a bunch of money as a president of an insurance company. And then he abruptly quit, and he established some sort of investment firm that had offices in Jacksonville, Brazil, and Ireland. And he spent a lot of time in South America.
Why is that also important as it relates to Charlie Kirk, or why it even just raises my antennas just a little bit? Because in our most recent live with Brian, we discussed, what is it called? Why Refi, the organization that forgives student loan debt, but only for students that are going into default, that are on the brink of not being able to make their payments. Those are the only ones that qualify. Turns out that Charlie Kirk and others, like Officer Tatum, actually invested in this organization, allegedly, if I'm remembering correctly. It's also important because we talked about Charlie Kirk's life insurance. And even though it wouldn't be him directly, allegedly, but he was paying, or he took out a loan through Turning Point USA. For those of you that haven't seen my interview with the TPUSA auditor, Brian, there's a $350,000 loan that was taken out from Turning Point, annual loan per year, that was being paid towards Charlie Kirk's insurance policy that wasn't established until just a few years ago. Like I think like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. $350,000 a year. If you Google that, how much the payout would be for such a high amount, it will be in the tens of millions of dollars.
But the details of what exactly this business was and what he was doing in South America all the time are kind of murky. He was actually questioned a lot about this during the election, and he never really gave much of a straight answer about what his whole South American investment firm was. Obviously, there are a lot of drugs imported from South America through Florida, so you do wonder if something like that was going on. But he eventually ran for governor of Florida in 1966, and he won, and he became the first Republican governor of Florida in 100 years. And he was long rumored to be a candidate for U.S. vice president or even president of the United States. He was really thought of that highly. And anyway, Claude and Erika Kirk had a couple kids while they were in office, and she was just constantly talked about while Claude Kirk was governor.
And look at that. They had 2 kids, just like Charlie and Erika.
So many articles and features out there that were written about her. And then in 1970, Claude Kirk ended up losing his bid for re-election, partially because his 4 years as governor of Florida was just seen as like so chaotic and so lively. He ended up switching to the Democratic Party after this. He ran for governor again in the late 1970s, and he was always mentioned as a potential, presidential candidate or vice presidential candidate. And he actually,
which is also interesting because Charlie Kirk, even though he wasn't running for president or anything, but this is the narrative around Charlie Kirk was that he was presidential. He had presidential potential, right?
She tried to run for president in 1984, but was unsuccessful. And that was pretty much that. So there are just so many weird things going on here. And obviously the whole thing with both of these 2 women being named Erika Kirk and both looking identical to each other, both being in the limelight. I mean, it is really strange, very, very, very odd.
It is very odd. And I saw some people in his comment section saying that they actually don't look alike. And he also says that Charlie and Claude looks like what you're about to hear here in a moment. But I actually disagree with those people. I don't believe these people look identical. So I don't necessarily agree with this content creator here. But I will say that they do favor each other. I do believe that they have similar qualities for sure.
And Charlie Kirk honestly looks like a younger version of Claude Kirk. They definitely had the same, very distinct nose, same facial features. Claude Kirk is much heavier, probably at least about 100 pounds heavier, and he's about 15 years older than Charlie Kirk as well.
And that's important because remember, with age, your face sort of, I don't want to say it restructures, but it forms just a little bit. It repositions itself in just a little bit when you grow in age, of course, as we all know. And also, people typically gain weight, particularly in the face, the older that we get. Now, again, I do not believe that these 2 individuals look identical, but I do see that they favor each other in some ways, especially that hairline.
So the Erika Kirk one is just identical. They're the same age and everything. They match up perfectly there. But all the pictures of Claude Kirk are when he's in his 40s and 50s. He definitely looks a lot like Charlie Kirk, like an older version of Charlie Kirk as well. And the fact that this 1960s Erika Kirk was a German who relocated to Brazil is very, very interesting because there were just a whole bunch of Nazis who relocated to South America after World War II. Just officially, there were tons of them. And there are also rumors that there were just thousands upon thousands more who were living underground or living off the grid. And they even set up a camp there. It was called Colonia Dignidad, and it was allegedly just a whole bunch of experiments, a lot of works with genetics going on there. It was described as a state within a state, just full of German nationals. And I've mentioned this movie, Boys from Brazil, a number of times in videos I've made. The plot of the movie is that the bunch of Nazis who went underground in South America are creating a bunch of human clones using Adolf Hitler's DNA in the hopes that one of these clones will grow up to one day lead a resurgence of the Third Reich. And honestly, that's what I think is going on here. Human cloning. I literally just did a video about human cloning. It's my most recent video. It might sound super futuristic and advanced to some people, but it's really not. Human cloning was talked about all the time 50 years ago. All these articles are from the 1970s talking about how being able to clone humans was pretty much imminent. And the process is really not all that difficult. I talked about it in the video. And to be clear, this isn't like creating an adult replica or clone of someone. This is creating an embryo using only the cells from one person that is a replica of that person. And one thing that's always talked about in these articles about human cloning, which again are from like 50 years ago, but one thing that's always talked about is how this technology would enable people to create clones of important people from history, world leaders, famous politicians, people like that, like special people like that. And Claude Kirk, he definitely qualifies as just kind of like a legendary figure. No one ever talks about him anymore. No one probably has any idea who he even was. But if you read about him, he sounds like such an amazing guy, just really larger than life, really unique person. He was, quite literally, he was mentioned as possibly becoming president one day. He was thought of that highly. And the whole similarities with him being a very brash, outspoken, controversial Republican guy, and Charlie Kirk being a very brash, outspoken, controversial Republican guy are very interesting. And the whole Erika Kirk thing is just so strange. This 1960s Erika Kirk, the fact that she went from Germany to South America to the First Lady of Florida and just has this like real mysterious background. And then the modern Erika Kirk, she's honestly pretty similar to that too. There's a lot of rumors and questions about her background and what she was up to before she met Charlie Kirk.
And it's also weird that as you can see here, there's this emerald dress color that she has on here. And they mentioned early in the article that the Erika Kirk that married the governor of Florida had, these beautiful emerald green eyes. So I just found that to be very interesting.
Charlie Kirk. So this whole thing is just really, really strange. Just very, very bizarre how.
It is very bizarre. But even more so, I want to share just some additional information with you all about these characters, because he didn't share it in this video, but it's kind of a big deal. So, for example, Claude Kirk, the governor of Florida, in May 1967, in response to lobbying from the Walt Disney Company, this governor actually signed into law legislation which created the Reedy Creek Improvement District and granted the Walt Disney Company self-governance status. So he was actually the governor in Florida to grant Walt Disney this self-governance status near the area where Walt Disney World was being constructed at the time. This governor also is the governor during the Apollo 8 mission, which would take the first humans to lunar orbit, allegedly, and the Apollo 11 mission, which would land the first humans on the moon, allegedly. And I only say allegedly because you have to remember, I've made a video about this. Mr. Buzz, Adrian Buzz, we've covered them. The Freemasons was 100% a part of the quote-unquote moon landing. That's not even a conspiracy theory. They have their own flags. They openly talk and brag about this. They've made documentaries about it. Freemasons were a part of the moon landing. Why is it important? Because if the Freemasons were a part of it, you should question it. You should be suspicious about it. Now, if you're willing to go as far, if it actually happened or not, you may not want to go that far, but you want to question and look into the details surrounding it, right? And I'm gonna just leave that there because I've already spoke about it in other videos. But the rocket that actually carried the Apollo 11 astronauts would actually be launched at Cape Canaveral on July 17, 1969, which July 17th is actually an interesting week because remember, that's the same week that the whole Charlie Kirk, Dave Smith, Josh Hammer debate and the Tucker Carlson monologue happened that would many people have come to the conclusion that really was the turning point, pun intended. But something else that's very interesting for people to know is that remember the day that everything happened with Charlie Kirk, there was an individual that was asking him the question at the time. His name was Hunter Kozak. Hunter Kozak is the son of a director at the Jimmy Kimmel Show. His father's name is Steve Kozak. Steve Kozak's father, just follow me here, is a guy by the name of Elliot Kozak. Elliot Kozak actually worked alongside a guy by the name of Bob Hope. For those of you that don't know, Bob Hope was this super popular American comedian, actor, entrepreneur, producer, but he actually holds the record for hosting the Academy Awards ceremony 19 times, which ties back to the whole acting and the Hollywood piece of things. Well, Bob Hope is actually or was very close to, yep, you guessed it, Governor Claude Kirk. What is the chance? What are the chances? What is the likelihood that these people would be, even if it's super 4, 5, 6, 8 people removed, 2 generations removed, it doesn't matter. What's the chance that these people are linked to each other that way, And once again, once you pair this with the other videos that I've made covering Erika Kirk's background, her family's background, Charlie Kirk's family's connection to Donald Trump. It just continues to get more and more and more weird. It's like, is any of this stuff real? Did y'all know about this? Did you know about the governor of Florida? Hop in the comment section. Let me know. Give me your thoughts, man. Until next time, I'm Demetrius. I go by Didi. Peace.
Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.